Hi folks, Al from the Psych Collective. I'm a consultant psychiatrist. I see hundreds of patients a year and I do quite a bit of work with people with ADHD. So I want to talk just briefly about ADHD today and about some things that might be helpful. I'm sure you're aware there are medications that can be very helpful and they can be transformative really. But not everyone tolerates medications. Problems like blood pressure or just tolerance to the medication can be an issue. So I want to talk about some non-medication things that can be helpful. And there's two kind of strategies that I think are well worth undertaking. And this really goes for anyone who's a student or wants to concentrate a bit better. So you don't have to have ADHD to benefit from the two techniques I'm going to talk about. So let's do it. The first technique is a skill whereby when one is learning a piece of information, so say you're sitting down to study, you're sitting down with a book, and there's a new piece of information that presents itself to you. What most people might do is they'll read that and just blow through it and get to keep reading, or occasionally they'll make a note of it, which improves retention. If you actually write the fact down, it does improve retention. And then people will, they might forget about that fact, and later on when they go to study or revise, they'll look at their notes and they'll sort of browse their notes and go, oh yes, that's all very good. Then when it comes to exam time, it's like, oh, I don't really remember that detail anymore. So here's a better thing to do. When you learn a new piece of information, whether it's in a lecture or out of a book or whatever, that you think you're going to need again later, rather than simply writing down the stated fact, I'd invite you to reformulate that fact as a question and write that down, okay? When you reformulate that fact, you're manipulating the information, okay? You're utilizing all kinds of different processing skills, and it's much more likely to encode that into memory, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're reading about the history of Australia, and you read that Captain James Cook came to Australia in the year 1770. Okay, there's a fact, all right? If you just write down Captain Cook came to Australia in 1770, maybe you'll remember it, okay? But a better thing to do is to pose the question, in what year did Captain James Cook come to Australia? Or in what year did the first European come to Australia, and what was his name, okay? So now you're manipulating this information. So you've written out, so Q for question, in what year did the first European explorer come to Australia, question mark, okay? And then if you've got time, A, answer, Captain James Cook came to Australia in 1770, full stop, question and answer. So you've had to integrate the information to do that, all right? Now, every chance you're still going to forget it, but now when you come to do your revision, instead of just reading a page of facts, okay, you cover the answer and you read the question. In what year did the first European blah, 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 okay? Now you've actually got to retrieve that information, because this skill in an exam is retrieval, all right? So now you're actually practicing retrieval, okay? Not just blindly glancing at facts. So you've more chance of encoding the information, and you're practicing retrieving that information. And that makes that information far more accessible, all right? And the fact that you're doing it this way, it's more engaging, okay? So you're more likely to be able to do it rather than just kind of blanking out and staring into the distance. So there's all kinds of reasons, okay, whether it's in a lecture or studying from a textbook or whatever, to write new facts out as questions, all right? You end up with a page or two of those questions, and then you review those questions, ideally at the end of the lecture, okay, but soon after, and then again like a week later. You're going to be pretty bomb-proof with that information if you do that, okay? So that really, everyone should do that, okay? But if you've got ADHD, it's kind of mandatory to do that, I think, if you're trying to study. All right, so that's that tip. The other tip is a technique to improve attention, okay? Because attention's kind of critical in that. That's the whole thing with ADHD, your attention goes out the window. Interestingly, often people with ADHD are able to sort of hyper-focus when it really interests them or in a high-stress situation. So that's a curious thing that you can sort of tap into. How to improve attention. There are some interesting techniques on doing this, all right? The one that I like is by deliberately focusing your attention to something. It can be something boring, okay? It can be your finger if you like. okay? You set yourself a 10-minute goal, all right? For the next 10 minutes, all I'm gonna do is focus my attention on my finger or on the clock or on whatever, okay? Don't scroll through your phone, that won't work. It's gotta be something kind of not very engaging, all right? So you stare at that, and what you'll find is after about 2 seconds, your mind will be out the window, okay? You'll be thinking about 100 other things. Your job is to notice, okay, that you have been distracted from the point of focus. Okay, so your mind might be wandering for a minute. Okay, when you catch yourself wandering, you give yourself 10 points. Okay, boom, 10 points. You beauty. That's a good thing that you've caught yourself. And you come back to the point of focus. Again, you might only be able to have your concentration there for 5 seconds, 10 seconds before your mind starts to wander. Okay, maybe it wanders for a minute or two. But the moment you catch it, you go, boom, excellent, 10 points. I caught myself. Back to the point of focus. Now, as you practice this technique, okay, every day, ideally twice a day, ideally 10 minutes, okay, you'll find that, one, you can focus better on this boring thing, okay, and secondly, you'll start to notice very quickly that your thoughts have wandered and you can come back and reorientate yourself. This is like a meditation, really, okay. Now, what this means when you put this into practice in the classroom, okay, is that you're more able to focus on what the lecturer is saying or what the book is saying, okay. So it's a technique to directly improve attentiveness, all right. So there's 2 techniques we've talked about, guys. The first one is how to improve, how to more deeply integrate new information, okay, and how to retrieve that information. So that's a really critical skill. And then the second one is actually improving your attention so that information can get in there in the first place. All right, folks, I think those things will be very helpful if you put them into action, all right? Thanks for joining us, okay? Please do make a comment, tell me what you think about that, please, okay? Please also like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's actually really helpful if you do that for us. Thanks, folks.